Let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Thursday, October 13th, 2022 Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee meeting. I'm going to go ahead and immediately throw this over to Elena Helton to go to step 2 or number 2 on the plan or the agenda today, which is to review input from the August and September public events.
Thank you, Ken. Thank everyone for coming. I know it's been a while since we've all met together, but I just want to give a brief rundown of the things we're going to be talking about today. So essentially, we're going to give you guys a recap of the different types of public engagement that we've done so far, some of the input that we've heard, and then talk about our upcoming schedule and how you guys can participate. We do have DTJ on to help share some of that information with you guys. We have them for a short while, so we want to get into that, but I did just want to thank everyone for coming, and this is kind of a Q&A if you want, so we can ask questions, but we haven't completely closed all of the surveys yet, so we'll be coming back next month with a more detailed report, but we just wanted to kind of give you guys some highlights of what we heard and answer any questions that you may have. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Francois, and he's going to start by doing a recap of our last meeting.
Absolutely, and thank you, Elena, for that opportunity. And welcome to everybody. It is so good to see you all. And we had such a good visit the previous time. And in fact, after that one day, quite a few things happened. So, and I want to confirm with you that, you know, the people that you see on this team are the people that come to you and visit with you and we're involved with interviews, with focus group meetings, and the main thing is that we want to be seen as being present in your community and meet and engage with the community as well. So the key events that happened in the last couple of months is that we had 2 really intense weeks of engagement, and that kicked off with the August 17 Cpac meeting. The first week of those 2 weeks, we had interviews, we had focus group meetings, and the second week, we had the 2-day visioning workshop, which, as you all know, was a great success. And we also had a first public meeting during that second week. And the grand finale of these 2 weeks really ended with a visioning session on Friday afternoon after those 2 weeks. And this is just an image of that day that we all went through some exercises and shared with each other. So to think then about the community touch points during the period that we came to visit over those 2 weeks, one-on-one interviews, we had 6 in-person interviews, we had 4 virtual interviews, and then on top of that, we had 4 focus group meetings, the public meeting, as I mentioned, and also the visioning survey that kicked off and is still actually open and will soon close. The important thing is that we made a concerted effort to reach out to the community. This does not even involve the downtown engagement that we did in September. So what are the next steps? Before I will ask Civic Brand to go in more detail through some of those items, the next steps is a transportation survey that will soon be released. We will also do additional outreach to those not reached as yet. We've identified those that haven't been reached, and Civic Brand will help us to reach them as well. We also will have some additional focus group meetings. And then what we plan to do is to present to you the values and guiding principles for the comprehensive plan. That's really the result of the engagement effort. In fact, the engagement effort leads towards determining what are the values, what are the guiding principles, and out of that we will establish a vision statement, which will then guide the development of the plan, but as well as the implementation. So the next steps then after that will be recommendations. We will be working on that the 4th quarter of 2022, and then during the 1st quarter of 2023, we will do the report writing. So this is what I would like to share with you. I'm sorry that our team, some of our team members have to jump off at 4, but at this stage I would like to give over to Civic Brand. Thank you.
Thanks, Francois. Elena, are you going to share your screen, or Brisa, are you sharing yours?
I'll share mine.
Okay. So Brisa is going to pull up and share for you guys. It's kind of sneak peek at the engagement report. couple disclaimers just while she's pulling that up and before she shares. This isn't a presentation, so it's not designed to be slides. So I'm certain that there's going to be some things that you probably can't quite see on a presentation here, because this is our engagement report, which basically summarizes every engagement event in detail, when it was, who was there, some photos, some key takeaways, and obviously that's a work in progress because there's still a number of surveys still to happen. But I want her to just show that, walk through a few things, so that we can highlight, just start to get familiar with what does that look like. And then I believe that Elena in her presentation and slides also has the numbers that we've reached so far from the digital surveys, from the first 2 surveys that are out. And so we can talk about that when we get to that slide as well, because there are some key demographics that we want to take an equitable approach and really make some extra effort to make sure we're hitting. So with that, Brisa, if you're ready to share, I'll let you share your screen and walk through that.
All right. So y'all can see this, right? Do I need to make it bigger or anything? Okay, cool. So yeah, like Ryan said, this is a peek behind the curtain, and so I don't expect you guys to be able to read all of this, but I'm just gonna kind of hit some key points. Obviously, there was a committee meeting with y'all that I'm sure plenty about, so I'm just gonna keep moving. But like Francois mentioned, we did a handful of public meetings in August and September for the comp plan and the downtown plan, and so. One of those, like I said, being the comprehensive plan public meeting. So we had over 200 people there. There were different interactive polling, different mapping exercises and stuff. And so you can kind of see, we started to parse that data and see what people told us at that. For example, we asked them about, what's important to you in terms of developing a vision statement. That emphasis on quality of life was the big winner there. A lot of people really resonated with that. And so you can see there's, all of the results from the polling, and we don't have time to, go through one by one. But beautification efforts seem to be really important to people. Economic development is a big priority that they believe the comp plan should address. And so there was a lot of that. There was also a virtual component. So if you weren't able to attend the public meeting, we asked people, we had an online tool where people could actually map spots where they feel like beautification should be focused. And so we're in the process of analyzing that data. Same with some mobility issues. Where's congestion? Where do we need to, address walkability or pedestrian safety? So that is all included in everything that we got out of that meeting. There was also that visioning session. So that was more on a small group scale, talked about if you had attended some of the other focus groups or things during that week, kind of talked about what you heard and what the consultant team heard, and gave us a chance to loop back. On the downtown side, did a public meeting there, had similar kind of mapping exercises and other things with that design charrette. We're able to kind of listen to the public and sketch out some ideas and get their feedback. We also had a few people down there a few weeks ago for a handful of on the street engagement stuff. So we went to the farmers market. We were just kind of all over downtown. It was the weekend of the arts festival, so there were a lot of people out and about that weekend in downtown. And then we also went to an SFA football game. Really heard from a lot of young people, which was great because we haven't necessarily heard from young people on the surveys. So getting that on the street engagement was super important. And kind of the theme that came out of that was they really are looking for just more to do downtown. They loved the event going on that weekend, thought it was a good start, but just kind of wanted to continue that momentum. You can see oh, go ahead, Ren.
Yeah, just a couple. I mean, some of these bullet points Brisa kind of touched on, and I know we're due to time, we're having to kind of fly through this pretty quick, but a couple things I just wanted to point out. I mean, I don't think this is any surprise to anybody, but both, a lot of the college students mentioned multiple times, it was a very consistent refrain of just wanting more to do downtown. But I think the interesting thing was coupled with, obviously, the arts festival that was going on, it really did seem like there is a opportunity for, local makers and people that if they had more opportunity to do things like that and to, I think it's that it's actually that first bullet point there, young entrepreneurs really wanting to see an opportunity to showcase their work. And so I do think that, you know, you have, I think sometimes the young entrepreneurs and college students, they're almost in the shadows when it comes to economic development. And so I think there is a big opportunity to really use downtown as a showcase platform of just vibrancy and activity and you know, entrepreneurship. And so when we look at those demographic numbers of who we talked to on those 3 events, you can see that 40 of the 60 people were 18 to 24. And that's, again, when we look at the survey numbers, we're still, I believe, pretty low on those numbers overall. So we really want to do a lot of extra effort to just continue to reach those groups, as well as some of the minority groups. But we did make an extra focus there on the right. You can see with the Hispanic population and the Black population, you know, we really made a focus to reach out to as many folks as we could in that weekend.
Yeah, and we'll be back doing a similar thing at the Dia de los Muertos event in a few weeks, more on the street engagement. And then we've also done a ton of focus groups. So we did an economics focus group with people kind of, you know, in that realm, talking about local economic priorities, you know, what industries need to scale up to support the growth that's happening. And so just some of their kind of priorities that they outlined in connectivity in terms of like internet and cable, and making sure that Nacogdoches can support, you know, local businesses on that aspect. Looking at, you know, the expansion of the aviation industry, things like that. So I had a great conversation with them. Also did a focus group specifically targeted around the neighborhoods, like the different kind of character areas within Nacogdoches. And so talked about, you know, what's good, what's bad, what needs to be preserved, what needs to be improved. Had some mapping exercises with that as well. Transportation group, focus group too. So that was a lot of local transportation leaders and organizations, you know, talking about all types of transportation, so not just vehicular. And then obviously to the I-69 corridor. And then this will be the focus, this topic will be the focus of our next survey.
Yeah, and just to chime in here, and Francois, Jason, or Jay, I'm curious if you have anything to add about this. I thought this personally was, it was a small group, but it was a highly productive focus group. You know, we had somebody from TxDOT, we had a couple people from the university, police department there. And I think some things that really stood out to me was surfacing where some of the connections and interchanges are. You know, obviously the university, they have their own streets, and they have their guys in their little gator golf carts that have to kind of go around, and there's areas where they have to cross streets. And I just thought it was a really good cross section of groups. Jason, I saw you pop on. I'm curious if you have anything to add about this focus group.
No, I agree. I think just getting everybody together and talking about some of the common denominators in terms of transportation and mobility, both in terms of issues and opportunities. Same thing with, you know, the nonprofit groups later on. I thought that was a great discussion in terms of, you know, different ways it could advance the community. And I think everybody was, you know, while they have different missions, all had, you know, the same desire to sort of advance the community in different ways. And just hearing them talk about, you know, different ways they could work together, and maybe just quarterly having, you know, conversations just to kind of check in and see where the opportunities to leverage, you know, common resources was also one of those opportunities that I think was which really stood out. So.
And something that, Ryan, that I would like to add to this is that, you know, you look at the person with the orange and yellow jacket. Obviously, he is from TxDOT, and it was really wonderful to see how he was so engaged, so interested, really wanted to look at ways that TxDOT can help the city and even the university to just be better in transportation issues. So having him around the table, having engaged, having everyone to meet each other there, that was really, really a fantastic part of that whole exercise.
Well, the only two caveats I would say is, one is once we have some recommendations from the plan and we have to take it further up the ladder, I think we may need to engage TxDOT at a higher level than the gentleman who was there. He most probably is an operations guy, so just kind of flagging that for future involvement. And then on the nonprofit group, I mean, there was not that much minority engagement. I mean, in the nonprofit side, so we felt that maybe there was not enough diversity represented in the group, but that may just be our impression. But maybe this next effort to engage more minorities will help look at any gaps.
Yeah, that's true across the board for sure. Real quickly, I'll go through the downtown focus group. So specifically looking at downtown. So obviously you can see those maps are more zoomed in than some of the others. Jason and Jay have mentioned this, nonprofit group that really talked about how, what challenges do they face? How can the city and nonprofits kind of work together and leverage each other? And so, yeah, all of those I think were very productive. And then we also did a handful of interviews, like Francois mentioned, in person and virtually. But I know we're coming up on 4. So I know we flew through this, but just keep in mind that, we've done a lot, still got a lot to go. And then this document will continually be updated as we meet with more people.
And we're going to share these
I am
slides
available
with you.
to hang on after if there are any questions. I know the rest of the team has to jump, but.
Thank you, Ryan. So not everyone is jumping off, just a couple of people, and we're going to share these slides with you afterwards. But I wanted you to hear kind of summaries of that input from Civic Brand and DTJ, because they were the facilitators. They're the ones that really gathered the data. Staff was there as a resource, but this really was ran by the consultant team, and it really was a intimate conversations for the consultants and those that participated. And the people that participated in focus groups, we got some really good feedback from. They were very excited to be part of the discussion. They wanted to come back when there was another meeting. They really enjoyed connecting with the other groups and seeing how their priorities interlined with other groups, and you could just tell they were really engaged. And so that group is going to be coming back for future meetings as well. And so I think it was not only a great effort for input, but just connecting some of those people and developing those relationships, because that'll help with dividends in the future. So Ryan, do you want to let people ask questions? Because you went over it quickly, and we're going to share this information. I just wanted to make sure you guys got a summary of here's what we've done so far. Lots of focus groups, lots of interviews, lots of man on the street. And that's why we gave you guys a break, because we wanted you to come to those events. And a number of you did. So with that, I'll see if anyone around the room has questions about those different activities that we did. Nicole or Brad? A number of you guys were at those meetings. Is there anyone at any of those meetings who want to comment or speak about their experience they had? Or
did you say we get a copy of what we were
yes.
looking at?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And so really, we put that information on the slide just to have something for visual reference as they were talking through the material. But yes, later this afternoon, I'll send out that as a PDF, and so you guys have it. It is draft mode because we were still finalizing some of that data, but just wanted to give the opportunity to share that with you guys and some of those preliminary findings that we heard, and then any comments or questions from you. But yeah, we'll share that. I'll share my presentation, and then next month they'll finalize the report, and we'll get that out to you as well. So you'll have the full data, and it'll be much more detailed with the statistics and demographics and so on and so forth. And then we'll let you guys review that way ahead of time, and then meet about it, so you guys have a chance to digest it, make comments, note questions, and we'll have a much more developed conversation. Oh,
yeah, and there's a ton more content that will be going into that. That was kind of just the quick stuff that's happened since that last trip down there, or last meeting with you guys. That engagement report has some missing descriptions, has some missing photos still. It's also going to have, once we close all the surveys, and just a reminder, Parisi, you might remember the total number of surveys we're doing. We've only done 2 of about, is it 5 that we're going to do? 6. We've only done 2 of 6 surveys. The 3rd one's coming out soon. That engagement report will also include all of the data from those surveys as well once those are closed. So again, it's very much work in progress, pulling the curtain back, because we're like right in the thick of engagement. But obviously we want you guys to see things early. And so Elena will share that with you guys, but definitely don't expect it to be a final polished document just yet.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to take some time to talk about is that community survey. So that community survey covers a broad number of categories. And we published it, or we released it right around the time we were doing the August community meetings. And we've hit the raw numbers as far as, you know, the number of responses that we wanted based on our population, but the breakdown as far as demographics, we would like to see more representation. So I'm going to show you guys my slide, and Brisa's not sharing anymore, right?
Right.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so, and again, there's actually a copy of this in your packet material. So the Google slide that you're looking at now, there is copies of that. So this is essentially just the overall summary of not only the community visioning survey, but the downtown survey. And so you see those circles, the green and the red. The green is the number of raw total responses that we received from the community survey. And so we've actually received more than our kind of target based on our population. But when you look at the demographics, there's a lot of representation for our Caucasian community and those over 35, but it's no surprise, these are typically the groups that are traditionally hard to really get engaged in that process are our youth, including SFA students, and then our minorities, specifically Hispanic and the African American population. And so we've extended the survey, and we've already done some work in the background. So I've reached out to Reverend Don Mills and Reverend Don Lacey. They have a couple of churches in the Southeast and Southwest Ward, and so they're actually meeting this weekend to talk about different community events and activities. And they're going to be talking about our community survey to their congregation on Sunday. So we're going to talk about ways that we can present that information and those questions to that group in a way that has meaning to them, and also just get them more plugged in. So I've also reached out to Makara at SFA. She's not here today because she had some training, but she's going to be sharing the survey with their Office of Student Multicultural Organization students. And so they have a contact list of all the students that are part of all those different interest groups, and so they're sharing that. We'll also be at the Hispanic Heritage Night at the school on Friday. And so we'll be sharing that as well, and we have a Spanish version that we've printed out. Juan will be there, and so we'll be hitting that really hard. And then we've also gone out to some of our Hispanic-owned businesses on the south side of town and shared flyers, put up information in their businesses. So we've done a lot of stuff on the back end to try to do one last big push to increase that representation. But I really want to charge this committee with helping us kind of do that legwork. And what we've done is we've printed out a couple of hundred flyers. One of them is just specific to the online survey, and they are double-sided. One side is English, one side is Spanish, and we have several flyers that are just information about NAC Together. So I'm going to ask you guys to each take 10 whenever you go out, and then let us know what are you going to do over the next few days to help us increase that representation for our survey, whether it's sharing it at your church, your some local businesses that you have contacts at, maybe your doctor's office. And so we need your help. We have, again, really the numbers, but we would really like to see more of a representative sample. And this really helps us look at different ways we can target future surveys as well. So this was a nice learning experience. But again, I just want to highlight this and let you know that we are doing things on the back end, but we need your help. And so here are those upcoming events. Again, October 14th is the NISD Hispanic Heritage Night at the McMichael Middle School. We'll be there at 5:30. October 25th, this is after the survey, but this is another event that staff will be at. That's the Back to Senior Expo. We would really like to have members of the committee come out and help us work that event. And then on November 5th, we're going to be at Dia de los Muertos. I think I said that correctly. From 4 to 8, and we would really like you guys to help us work that event and share information. And so we'll be sending out some sign-up links so you guys can go and volunteer for certain times. But just wanted to let you know what we've done so far. This is some upcoming stuff specifically targeted to some of those groups. Again, we've reached out to some of our local leaders in those minority groups, but I think that with your guys' help, we can really do a lot over the next few days to really get as much as we can. Again, like Ryan said, we got a draft of that transportation survey. We're going to be sharing it with you guys tomorrow and give you guys the weekend to look it over, provide any comments or questions, and then get it back to Civic Brand so we can get that published. You guys have any questions about the data or? any of these events. Yeah.
You know, we did that, I think it was the murals, we called it.
Mhm.
Exercise where we identified different kind of stakeholder groups. Have we fully exploited that? Are we just not getting a response from people, or?
Yeah, so several of the contacts that are on there, we've reached out to. So like Reverend Don Mills was on there, Reverend Don Lacey was on there for our Black community. Several of those groups are also people who are connected on the downtown committee. So we have reached out to them, and they're helping us share those through their individual connections. But I think what's really helpful is just you guys using your personal connections as well. We're actually going to have specific focus groups. So we're going to have a Hispanic, Spanish-speaking focus group, just specific to that demographic. And we're also going to have a diversity focus group where we'll invite members from all those minority areas, as well as people who are representative of our ADA or mobility challenged groups. So a lot of those sit on several committees and groups, and because those are people that don't traditionally come to these types of events either. So we do have some future targeted events for those, but for these community surveys, these online surveys, those are more difficult just because there's not necessarily a lot of events where we can go and target those specific populations in a short period of time. So yes, we are utilizing that, and we've had some success with those contacts. But you know, all the help that we can get, it all helps. So.
Yeah, and a couple things I'll just add. You know, even just, I mean, if you have a neighbor, a friend, a family member that falls in any of these demographics that are red over there on the right, and again, the number there is how many we lack to hit our goal for that. So, you know, if you know somebody 18 to 24 in your family, sit down with them, make sure they take the survey, ask them to take the survey. Also, we'd like for people to take any of the surveys, but that first survey, the one that's going to close sooner, that's a broader like community vision survey. That's the one that I personally feel is more important to hit the equitable numbers on, as opposed to like traffic and things like that don't quite as much involve, you know, different demographic responses. You know, so it doesn't always have to be like, again, there's obviously the meeting in a box still out there. You know, you guys can host those still. But even if you just sit down with somebody and ask them to take the survey, or pull it up on your phone and ask them to take it, that stuff goes a long way, because you can see there's a couple of them there that, you know, we're just a handful away from. And then there's some like 18 to 24, we still need 101 of those folks. So, you know, there's quite a bit of work to do there. I wouldn't personally worry too much about the under 18, you know, because obviously we're not getting children, young children taking this survey. We definitely don't mind some high school kids taking it and things like that. But the other age groups and the demographic, the races that we haven't hit, I definitely want to make sure we try to hit.
But you're going to have high school kids if you want somebody under 18, I would assume, unless you want high school dropouts.
But that's what I mean. Yeah, we're going to have, that's what I mean though, of under 18, we're not expecting like 4 or 5, 6-year-olds to take the survey. The only people that would be within, you know, that would make sense to take that in the under 18 are going to be high school aged kids.
Yeah. Also, it seems
so
like the under 24, that's a pretty easy to find group most weekdays, right? Like we could target that pretty easily just by going over to SFA or going to Natchitoches High School.
Yeah, we were actually at SFA last week at the wellness fair, and you would be amazed at the attention span of some of the students.
Yeah, we hit 40 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, outside.
Those of you that are professors, if you have class tomorrow, make everyone get out their phone for extra credit. Complete the survey. You know, it's one of those things where unless people are really motivated, especially that group, and what we're doing for some of these other events, like, you know, talking to Reverend Mills about how they're going to present that to their congregation, figuring out what's important to that group, right? Because not everyone cares about bike lanes. Not everyone cares about businesses in downtown. So catering, customizing the message to emphasize the elements of the survey that really are important to them, because a lot of people really care about economic development. And so, you know, kind of highlighting them and motivating them based on what interests them, and because they still have to fill out the whole survey. So just one of those things where trying, certain groups, we do have to have a little bit of a customized message to highlight the things that are really maybe more important to that group than others. So for SFA, when we were there, we were talking to them about, like, well, what would keep you here? What kind of after-hours activities do you like to do? What kind of businesses do you like to visit? What do we need more of? What is in your hometown that we don't have that you would like to see? And so kind of communicating to them in a way that they can really understand it and be excited about. Yeah, Larry?
That would be one of my concerns, is if we just focus on SFA students.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them are not going to stay here. So I would like to see us try to get people that are here, living here, in that age group that are going to stay here.
Yeah.
But a lot of SFA students are going to come and go.
Yeah.
If we'd like to keep them, there's things we can do.
You're saying people in that age group that don't go to SFA? Just trying to.
Yeah, I think a large portion of that demographic do go to SFA, and just the fact that we were asking them, like, what they liked and didn't like, and if they could bring anything from, where they were from, they got really excited. And because they're not used to hearing that kind of thing from people, especially from city employees. And so when we said, well, what would keep you here? Oh my God, we got all kinds of things. We're like, well, go fill out the survey and tell us on there. So I think students, if you engage them in the right way, they do care. And I think if we knew what would keep them here, then we would maybe have more success with that. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's a double-edged sword because they are a transient population. But I've worked in other college towns where a lot of those students move there and they never leave. And I've heard that from actually a few people that I've met through this process where they came to school here, they loved it, they stayed. Jessica is one of them. So, I think some of those are few and far between. You don't meet as many of those. But that is a point. I saw you raise your hand, Nicole.
I was also going to say, you also have to think about people who have friends who may be younger than them. So they'll go to football games with their friends as their students at SFA, and a lot of those students will come to SFA just because they have that background and knowledge of what SFA is, and they want that in their college career. So we don't need to totally rule them out, because if we bring things that they want, their friends will follow.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on that, and Nacogdoches is kind of a little hub for some of these other smaller towns around, and so a lot of people come to Nacogdoches, say like from Center, St. Augustine, these Garrison, Timpson, these other little areas for activities. So some of the things that's interesting to SFA students would be interested to other young people in the area.
And our census data shows that there are a whole lot of kids in that age range that aren't going to college. So, in churches, you can find them. Are you giving us hard copies? Is that what you're saying? Or do they still have to go on the computer?
So you have hard copies of the Google slide, and then I'm going to send out PDF copies of the material that DTJ presented. I can print out hard copies if anyone wants to come by the office and pick some up.
I'm talking about the survey. Do they still have to go online? Because that is a block for some people.
Yes, the survey is online. We have printed copies that we're going to take with us to some of these public engagement events, and we're going to give to some of the congregations, because not everyone's comfortable with that. But we really weren't hoping to do that unless we were having issues, But sometimes having that extra tool or venue or opportunity is fine. So we have started to do that, and we'll take them with us.
Well, I was thinking of bringing them to people I know in the Hispanic Latino community in our church.
Yeah.
They're not going to. I don't think many of them are not going to go online and do the survey.
Well, I'm happy to print out as many as anyone would like. If you guys want to come by tomorrow, just let me know how many you need.
Do we bring them back to you, or do they mail them themselves, or how are you going to do that?
Have them bring them back to us, and we'll have some people help do that data entry.
So like a church, if I passed them out, I could collect them all and bring them in? Or
Yes, but we need them by Monday, like Monday morning. So if you're going to take them to church, we ask you that you please come by Monday morning, because that's when Monday afternoon we're going to be closing the survey, because we've got to get to a point where we can start processing that data. So Monday is going to be a busy day, so if you can come by, if you're going to get copies, share them with your groups, make sure you collect them and bring them back to the office on Monday.
If you want us to do that,
yes,
we'll get copies tomorrow in English and Spanish.
So just email me how many you want, and I'll have them ready for you.
So are you saying that these churches that you mentioned are actually going to do the survey over the weekend?
Well, talking to Reverend Mills, yes, that they're going to, during their sermon, they're going to ask their congregations to fill it out. And so we're going to send them some paper copies. They have the electronic one. So really, it's one of those things where we want people to have as many options as possible to provide their input.
It's some churches with larger attendance
Mhm.
in that area, like Iron Wheel and
Yeah.
Bible Fellowship and Antioch that actually has larger attendance, should be exposed to more people. So
Yeah.
let's talk about how to
Okay,
contact those people.
absolutely.
Kathleen, could you clarify for me what you said about the survey?
My question,
About the census data, excuse me.
Oh, I haven't looked at it in the past 2 months, and I could be wrong, but there, our college graduate, what is it, like 25% of our population is a college graduate, or less than that? I can't remember. We have a large portion that
Right.
don't go to college, even in that age range. So,
There's about 15,000 people that have some college but never finished a degree.
right. So to say SFA is our
Right.
contact group for that age range overstates it by what? I mean, there are 4 times as many not in SFA as in there. I don't remember the exact data, but far more are not
And
in
that's
college.
what I was concerned about, is if we only focus
Right.
on SFA, we're leaving out a whole group of people
Right.
and not hearing from them.
Right.
And how we get to them, I don't know, honestly.
Well, that's what she was trying to say.
Yeah, and I'm thinking,
You said-
businesses, there's some young
Yeah.
people who are in business and actually do work for the
Churches.
city. Maybe we could get city employees in that age range.
Well, and we shared it with the chamber and their leadership Nacogdoches programs and some of their alumni, because that is the age range, that 24 to 30 to 34 really is a lot. A lot of those people who participate in those programs are that age group, because I did it last year. So they're the kind of up-and-comers who are, oh, yeah, hey, Kurt.
Go ahead, finish your.
No. So we've also reached out to that group because they have other professional associations as well. But I think SFA just is the first thing that comes to mind. So of course, that's something that we want to focus on. But we have reached out to some of these other
Well,
business.
SFA is just a collection of people in that age range,
Mhm.
and I would assume most people in that age range are either, the other place you could go is minimum wage jobs probably at
Right.
stores around town, but you can't really interrupt people at their place of work. But a lot of people in that age range are probably leaving if they're not doing some sort of vocational or college training around here. Maybe Angelina College for people.
E-Tech might be willing to. I know they're
E-Tech might have
involved
some-
in the
yeah, that's a good
community.
idea.
so-
E-Tech is a great idea.
I mean, but there's not that's part of the problem, is we don't have a lot of great jobs for people in that age range. I think a lot of people leave, right? So,
A lot of people stay.
well, I don't know.
They do.
Okay, so I was just had a quick question about the target
I don't know where they are.
sample.
Look
I
at
guess
the
that's
census.
driven by census data?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is from the 2020 census data. So they're looking at the percentage. Here's the overall based on our demographics. Here's the numbers that we're looking to hit. Mm-hmm.
How many employees do you have under age 24?
So, with that, again, Friday, we're going to be out at the Cpac Middle School, sharing information with students and parents, with the school district. On the 25th, we're going to have Senior Expo. November 5th, we'll be at the Dia de los Muertos. But what I want to do is I kind of want to go around the room and just have everyone talk about what are things that you think you could do over the next couple of days to try to help us reach as many of these numbers as we can. So Denise, which Denise hosted a meeting in the box at her church. And it went really well. I've heard some really good feedback from that. So I just want to thank you for that. And Paul was there. I think those were the only two we had from the.
I put it on social media that I had.
Okay. Are there any? Do you know any local business owners who would let you put up a flyer or something in their windows or at their front desk or? Because one has gone, some of our Hispanic owned businesses on South Street, we've gone, some other major employers, but usually if you know the person, they're much more likely to let you put stuff in their window. So I just wanted to ask. these numbers, it's not all. There's other activities that we've done to contribute to that, but, just wanted to point that out. What about you, Larry?
I posted it on social media several times, in groups several times. I'm willing to send the link to all my students and ask them to fill it out also.
Do you guys have in-person class?
Huh?
Do you guys have class in person, or you guys do a lot of online classes?
Both.
Both?
I have both. And I could ask my colleagues to send it to their students too. I mean, we can post it on the learning management system and then have the students go to it. Or send it through email, send the link through email.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of my old professors. I've sent it to them. I'm like, oh, for extra credit. We're filling it out.
I don't do extra credit.
Well, it's interesting. So at the wellness fair, the students were carrying around this, it looked like a bingo sheet for, like, they wanted you to sign their sheet to show that they did it for extra credit for a class. I'm like, oh my God, it's genius. And so I was like, well, if you sign up for updates, I'll sign your sheet. And that's kind of how we played that game. But and then we haven't, we gave them a few cards for that online.
I'm mean,
like
I
that.
don't do extra credit.
Hmm?
I'm mean, I don't do
Oh.
extra credit.
What about you, Paul?
I'll share the information with my church and several other churches, and I think it's good that they can focus on a particular area of the survey. So, because like you said, I don't think they might be interested in all as keenly aware or concerned about some of the other.
Yeah, and I would rather have them answer questions that they care about and skip a couple of them. So there's some answers if you go online that you have to have a response because it has a certain number. Some of them you can skip, but with a paper, if it gets too burdensome, I would rather just respond to what you care about. And so I think any input is better than none.
And we're focusing on getting them to do the visioning survey?
Yes.
Okay.
The downtown one will be open for a little while longer, and so we still want people to respond to that. But before we wrap up this first one, we were hoping just to get some more diverse feedback.
And you want it by Monday?
Yes.
Okay.
And like I said, I'm working with Kara, I'm working with Reverend Don Mills and Reverend Lacey. We'll be engaging with some of our other Hispanic leaders, but we have the event on Friday. But just wanted to ask you guys to give us a hand. What you can.
I think we need to extend the deadline.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How long do you think we would
Well, I
need?
mean, looking at the numbers you showed, I don't think you're gonna get there on Monday.
Yeah. Well, and, overall, we're hitting those numbers, and we're gonna have, like I said, more surveys, more input. We've also got some of those other in-person events where we did get a lot of those type of questions and things answered.
Yeah.
And so this is really just, I think if we don't get a dramatic increase, it doesn't mean that we, aren't gonna have good data. And it helps us focus on future things too. But if you guys wanna extend the survey, go around the room, you can vote on that, and we can extend it out until the end of next week.
Would it put any, how would it affect the overall, I guess, would be, it's kind of helpful to understand how it might affect the overall process if we did extend it.
Yeah, so,
Because we don't necessarily, if it's not gonna be, we only wanna do it if it's beneficial.
Yeah, the longer you delay anything, the longer the final product is gonna be, so the more we leave it open, the longer it takes to process all that, and then bring that forward in a format that you guys can understand and digest. So it may, if we extend it a week, it may delay the final report by a week. It's just one of those things, but they are processing a lot of other stuff in the background. So because it's electronic, it makes it easier. So with anything that is delayed, it just has a little snowball effect. But I think moving it out to one more week wouldn't hurt anything. So.
I was, I don't know if you did statistics, or I didn't see them, about how many people came from the different areas when the survey was done at, say, Nacogdoches High. Was mostly attended by people from that area, was the whole city involved?
Yeah, I have to go back and look at those numbers. I think it's in the material that Civic Brand presented, and I'll be sure to include that.
Yeah, and generally, if you want to get input from different areas, you actually go to those areas and have several areas.
Do they have that granular data of, like, for different events, the number of people and demographics for those people?
Yes.
Okay. That would be interesting.
No, we don't have, we can't tie it back to specifically at that event they took it. We do have that question that asks what zone that people live in and kind of splits, the city up into like 6 or 7 areas. But there's nothing on there that will tell us, oh, they were at this event, so they'll take it. And we can kind of guess based on the date and like, oh, we did on the street stuff this day, or like tomorrow at the Hispanic Heritage Night, and we can maybe see, oh, there was an uptick in surveys, on that date. But there's nothing that will 100% tell us whether or not that's true.
So the survey itself, the community visioning survey, the downtown survey, it just asks you, hey, based on this map, where do you live? Or do you work in Nacogdoches and live somewhere else? It asks you all that information. So for those, we do have that data. But like Risa said, the on-the-street engagement stuff, we don't have as many of that. The focus groups, some of those public meetings, we don't have as much of that background information. But we really are able to get into the weeds with the online surveys because people are prompted to get that response. They don't have to. They can leave it off. But we do ask. So some people don't feel comfortable for whatever reason providing that information. So you may have some numbers or some responses that just don't answer it at all. But we'll share that with you in the final report too, so we can see that visual demographic.
Elena, where are the flyers at?
So we left them at the front. So there's a big stack. So we've got, again, they're double-sided. One side is English, one side is Spanish. One of them is just a survey. The other one's just general knack together project information, the QR codes. And then if you guys email me and let me know how many physical surveys that you would like over the weekend, I'll have those printed out and ready for you to pick up. If you guys are interested in extending the survey till the end of next week, we can go around the room and vote on that real quick.
Well, before we do, for Brisa and Ryan, if you're still on, would that be helpful to you? Do you think it's necessary from your perspective? You're the ones crunching the data. Do you need it?
I mean, our whole philosophy is equitable engagement, so we will always be fine with keeping it open longer and hitting the numbers. It's just we just need to know how that impacts the timeline, because we're holding off on doing some of the deep dive analysis of the survey results, because if all of a sudden 100 18 to 24-year-olds take the survey, the results are going to be very different of how we like cross-analyze and think about things. And so if we're, I'm fine extending it and really trying to hit the numbers. I think that would be something that I think your committee and the downtown committee could be really proud of if we hit these numbers. But we might need to push back when we're presenting back the results of all of that,
That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right. So what do you think, Ken? You think we should extend it?
I think if we're gonna try to make a concerted push and get more data, and I think yes, because you're looking at coming on weekend and how much can you get done in the weekend.
Yeah.
So I would be in favor of it until then next week.
So you think maybe like instead of Monday, a week from Monday, so you get 2 weekends?
I think that would be better.
Everything.
So you have more to process.
Yeah, and we don't mind data entry. We can get some interns to input data. That's not the issue. We just want to make sure that we get it in a timely manner. Is all. What about you, Larry? What do you think?
Sure. It will, if you extend it till next Monday, that would be the October
Can't stay any longer.
next Monday, October 24th. Is that right? So that's not going to take in the senior expo.
I will say that demographic is the largest demographic that we've heard from. So
Because it's a large demographic.
it is a large demographic.
Food
but,
for a family.
So I just wanted
Okay,
to show you.
thank you.
Whenever you look at the numbers, so the green is those numbers that are well above the percentage based on our demographics, and the red is below. So when you look, the green is 35 to 74. There's an excess, so not just the minimum, but over. So we really want to focus on those people that we really haven't heard from.
Are we trying to approximate demographic data to the percentage of the demographic data in the population?
Mhm. Yes.
Okay.
this is in our packet, though. It's, you have to have a magnifying glass for it, but it's
I
there.
don't have one.
It's there.
We did print it out and we'll.
Not if you're 18 to
Extended, I mean,
24.
it's fine with me.
What?
Not if you're 18 to 24, you can read it.
But they will fill out surveys.
Yeah, not, just depending on your differing abilities, so.
Is there,
You clarify that for you.
it's kind of a weird question, but is there more weight given to the people that actually answered it when you asked, and then as opposed to the people that you're chasing?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, you're calling and chasing the red groups,
Mm-hmm.
and you had put the survey out, and these people showed up. Is there more weight to the people that showed up and had an involvement, or is that just a mute point?
No, I don't think there's any more
that
weight to
bad question?
any responses.
No,
No.
I mean, I can let Brian and Brisa answer that, but.
No,
I
there's
think
not.
My gut response is no.
Like, you have a friend,
Mhm.
or you chase a friend, you know?
Yeah.
So are you actively seeking the answers that you don't have or something?
The groups you don't have.
We're actively seeking representation. We're not, obviously trying to.
Yeah, so we're not looking for
Chase
specific
any
answers or
information.
specific responses. We're looking for specific demographic makeup, because everyone answers the same questions.
So in response to Brad's question, you might want to check to see if the sample that did it online is significantly different from the sample that did it on the pieces of paper, and to see if maybe we did have different groups. So maybe post-talk, you can let us know. if
Well,
you
so far we haven't used paper at all. We haven't utilized that because that was, really kind of like a last
Aren't we
resort.
still in the middle of a vote, though, just before we get off track? I know these,
Yeah.
these three like to text each other, and sometimes they
he's outing
command our
I
time.
thought they were on Facebook. That was my guess.
I'm on census data.
Oh, okay.
That's where I'm pulling it up. Sample.
So
And just Elena, just one more comment real quick on that. I think an important thing to just realize too with this, all of this engagement data and survey data, there's a combination of quantitative stuff like in the survey. There's also a ton of qualitative stuff that's conversations, comments, even open-ended questions on the survey. None of the engagement is about voting on any single decision or topic. We're not going to base any decision on, well, this won the vote. Nothing is about voting as much as surfacing viewpoints and then making sure that we're just considering viewpoints and how those viewpoints should impact and shape decisions. And so it's, whereas if it was if we were voting on issues, right, of should we do X, should we do Y, that would be very different than the role of engagement in a project like this. Is purely to surface viewpoints, make sure that the community is representative.
And that was a big priority of council when this project, this contract got approved. They really emphasized that they wanted this to be representative, that they wanted diversity, and that they wanted to make sure that we made our best effort to reach those groups that don't traditionally engage in our traditional public forums. And so that's why we're trying to take so much effort to reach those groups, because again, those are the groups that don't traditionally participate. And there's a number of reasons why, but I mean, I think you can just look around the room, and just the people that typically participate in public hearings and public forums and things like that, they are primarily white people who are, 35 to 55, and so that's just kind of, based on my observation, the demographics. And so there's a lot of people who just aren't necessarily as plugged into these public events and public activities as you and me are because of our roles or because of our networks. And so we just want to make sure that we hear from as many people as we can. Yeah, Jessica?
Yeah, I wanted to throw one thing in here too. We talked about this in the downtown meeting yesterday because they had some of the same questions like, are we chasing the same people over and over? And some of this isn't about chasing the same people and being like, please answer the survey as I've asked you 100 times. But even Elena and I, when we went to that SFA Health and Wellness Fair, to even some of the professors, people that worked at SFA were like, hey, y'all heard about NAC Together? They're like, nope. So some of this is trying to reach those people that still have not heard about what we're doing. So some of it, yes, we'd like this SFA group, whether it's the students, professors, whatever, to fill it out. But we are still chasing those people that still have no idea what we're doing here. They haven't heard about a master plan. They don't follow the city because they've never either felt engaged before or felt ignored, or they just aren't into city government. So some of these people we're still chasing are the ones that just have not heard anything about what we're doing.
Has anybody asked the president or the provost to send out an email to faculty and staff asking them to do the survey?
We reached out to our representatives who are really engaged more in the student side of it, but no, I don't think that we've actually reached out to the president directly, but I will. I know that they're kind of picky on what they send out, and they just don't send out anything. Because I've asked before when we were doing the census material, and I got some pushback on that. So it is kind of difficult. I have found that when it comes to administration, it can be difficult to get things distributed to the body as a whole. But if you have a connection, I would ask you, please, like set up a meeting or make a phone call. Because if you have a relationship with that person, then that may be a bit better than me just calling them out of the blue or emailing them. You know what I mean? So please, yeah.
It puts teachers or professors in an awkward position to offer extra points in a class, because then the student comes to me and goes, "What do you want from me? What answers do you want?" And that's not the good thing. Yeah, it's buying their vote in essence.
Or just answer whatever you think you should answer. I mean, because you're not going to look at their survey results, you know, individual survey results. So if somebody did ask you, you could confidently say, like, feel free to answer it however you want.
Yeah. But it's a little bit, we go through this a lot, and it's like, when it comes out to evaluations, a lot of times teachers will give extra points. You know, it's a little, it gets into a gray area there of offering food, gifts, candy, whatever, for you to do something. They're in school and they're paying for it, so.
The good thing is the survey is anonymous, so they don't even have to include their email if they don't want to.
But do what you're comfortable with, obviously. I mean, we're asking for, you know, anything that you're comfortable with and doing, and anything you're not comfortable with, definitely don't do.
The survey does prevent the same IP from filling it out more than once.
We're able to see the IP, and so, you know, there's some cases where answers would have the same IP naturally. For example, if 5 people all took it at the library, or at their office IP. So there are cases in which the IP doesn't just mean that it was the same person, but we have definitely seen surveys where you can, typically not on these types of surveys. Like, for example, we're doing a housing project. It's a very emotional topic, and there's definitely some people that have gone in and spammed the survey. So we'll do a quick scan for that and see if we can detect any spamming of the survey.
Yeah, so if you got like 50 surveys from the same IP, that would be questionable.
Yeah, 50 from the same IP, they put the exact same thing or a bunch of open comments that are like, don't do this. You know, we can usually tell those, but we don't just throw out anything with a duplicate IP, because again, it could be 2 people at the same office or the same household.
Thank you.
All right, so Ken, you're okay with extending the survey? Steele?
Yes, I would like to. Did Paul?
Yeah, you didn't skip me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Ken, I was trying to go in order and I just got distracted.
As long
Okay.
as it's be helpful, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Still yes.
Brad, what do you think?
You know, I'll go with the majority, whatever y'all want.
What do you think, Ed?
I agree if it's helpful.
All right.
Same.
Kathleen, Nicole? All right, thank you. So we will extend it another week, and we'll, again, share that information with you. If you guys want us to, you know, bring things to some of your group meetings or your events or your churches or whatever, please don't hesitate to reach out. That's what we're here for. Me and Jessica would be happy to help facilitate information or speak to your groups or print out helpful information, or just have them, you know, come by the office and pick up information as well. So please let us know what we can help you with. All right. So with that, again, tomorrow we'll be sending out a draft of that transportation survey. Give you guys over the weekend to take a look at it, give us any comments or feedback, and then we'll get it back to Civic Brand on Monday so they can finalize it. And we were trying to we don't have a lot of surveys open at the same time. So once we complete or close out the community visioning survey at the end of next week, then we'll open the transportation one, because we don't want to create confusion with having people completing several different surveys at the same time. So with that, I think that's all that I have. Okay. Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
this is, I don't know, in the past, didn't we have a subcommittee that was looking at the old plan to see what things we wanted to continue, and didn't we fill out a survey?
Yes, so, we have a subcommittee who's helping us finalize the comp plan evaluation report, essentially looking at what's been implemented, what hasn't and why, and they're helping us put it in a framework that is easy to understand, easy to digest. We have met and gone over some examples of, you know, if we present it this way, would that be easier for the layperson to understand if we present it that way? And we've got those survey results that you guys provided about those key, goals that you want to take forward. And so we have that as well.
Do we get results of those surveys?
Yeah, I can share that with you. I was trying to hold off till we did the report, but I'll go ahead and share that with you too. We can put it in some nice graphs, so it's easy to.
So I wasn't imagining any of that.
No. It's just been a while since we talked about it. So thank you for bringing that up.
A lot has happened
Yeah.
since then.
And, so I'm hoping to actually meet with the committee again this month, so we can, go over some more material. But I just want to thank you guys again for taking the time to, come to this meeting today. I know it's been a while since we met, there's been a lot going on, and so we just appreciate you guys being engaged and, volunteering your time.
And any other comments or questions before we adjourn? No? Okay, we're adjourned.
All right, thank you.